And welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf. Welcome to episode 352, our Executive of the Year episode with Mr. Brian Deckelnick.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
Brian, welcome back to the pod for, I think, it's your fifth appearance.
That's correct, Charlie. Thank you for having me. I thought I would get a jacket for my fifth appearance, like they get on SNL for the guest hosts, but maybe next time.
Well, the Masters is coming up. We'll get your green jacket.
Even better.
To go with your green sweater that you've got.
Yeah, I saw you and Evie talking about green on the podcast, so I thought we make up for it this week.
Yeah, well, welcome to our continuation of our annual awards gala series. You had a fabulous 2025. You're recognized as Executive of the Year for an outstanding job, really helping us kick it into gear to make sure that we got to that 272, that critical 272 number, which we got a little bit of lagniappe on that.
We did, yeah. The team was incredibly focused on that all year round. Every meeting we had, it came up, 272.
Yeah. We're going to get into your career, your background, a little bit more about you, and I've got some of our typical questions. But the moment that it happened, that you got announced Executive of the Year, how did that feel? Were you surprised?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. Honestly, I hadn't given it a lot of thought. I mean, you look at the competition, and it's like, I'm not going to win. You look at, Kim Harthus, Jocelyn Jones, Lynn, I mean, the list goes on, right? So I'm like, well, I'm not going to win. And then I started hearing the introduction, right? So you guys don't say who it is at first. And, you kind of go through the introduction. And I think Manny had talked about the recruiting process for me and the length of it. I'm like, then my heart starts beating through my chest. I'm pretty sure you could see it.
No one could see it.
Yeah, and then I blacked out. And then all of a sudden I'm walking off stage. So that's really all that I remember.
It was like the scene from Will Ferrell in Old School.
Exactly. Exactly.
What I just said.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you did a great job. It was a great speech, a great acceptance speech for being surprised on the fly there. And you did a great job also throughout the year. And the supply chain was a critical backbone. Brian talks about his recruitment. It was a 4-year recruitment effort. It began in 2015 and culminated in April of 2019. So you're coming up on your 7th year, seven amazing years at Broad River.
Yeah, I just noticed that the other day. I'm like, oh, it's coming up on 7. I can't believe it. I feel like it's been 2 or 3 years.
Coming up on 7 years. And we talk about supply chain. I mean, it was prescient that you joined us when you did, because little did we know that we'd be going through the worst supply chain season with COVID and the pandemic, which ultimately led to Project Ship. And with our you've taken us through a lot of supply chain iterations and initiatives, but our open orders blew up to like 45 million, and then you guys drove them all the way back down over 18-month, 2-year period.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. I think people who are still here, a lot of people are still here who were there then, and I think they'll have PTSD anytime you talk about 2020, 2021. The memories of staying up till midnight, scrubbing broken promises, things like that all come flooding back.
And then you had tariffs and all the, and then now we've got the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And the supply chain, one thing is the only constant is change with supply chain these days.
It's always interesting.
But we do have great partners that help us. So
absolutely.
So Brian, before we kind of just go straight to, by the way, one more thing. Congratulations, recently promoted to Vice President.
Thank you, sir.
How'd that feel?
Thank you, sir. That was another welcome surprise. It's always great to get recognition like that and validation of the work we're doing, on a daily basis.
Well, you did a great job, well earned, and so excited to see your career continue to grow here.
Thank you.
But let's go back. Tell us about just kind of your upbringing, where you grew up, what you wanted to do when you get in business, and besides being maybe a Major League Baseball pitcher for the Yankees or something.
Yeah, I mean that was the dream growing up. So I'm born and raised in Jersey. Went to school there. Played baseball, basketball. Yeah, when I was a kid, the dream was to play shortstop for the Yankees, right? Replace Derek Jeter. But that didn't work out, so I had to figure out another path. I went to school for financial management, actually. 18 years old, good with numbers, didn't know what I want to do with my life, really. So I figured that was a good path. And then out of school, I worked at a financial firm down in Charlotte for a couple years before an opportunity came up at a furniture manufacturer in Hickory. So that was how I got into the furniture business. starting in merchandising as an analyst, stressing the analyst, less merchandising. I don't know style, fashion, or trends if it's smacking me in the face. So one day the president of that company came to me and said, you're on the right bus, wrong seat, right? So obviously a big Jim Collins fan.
Yeah.
So she said, we're going to put you in supply chain. Widget's a widget. Just have what we need when we need it. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
Simple, simple. So that's how I got into supply chain.
That's awesome. So where'd you go to school, college?
Rowan University, at the time, was a small school in South Jersey. They have ballooned over the last few years and really grown and have really taken over the region down there. And then I got my graduate degree here after moving to North Carolina at UNC Charlotte.
Okay. Did you play college sports?
I did not.
Okay. Intramurals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What position in basketball?
Well, when I was young, center.
Okay.
And then the rest of the kids grew up, caught up to me, and then I became forward.
Okay. And so you made your way to Charlotte by way of getting your graduate degree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. And why did it take us 4 years for you to join Broad River?
You know, Charlie, I think things just happen when they're supposed to.
Hey, great answer. Great answer. I'll take that. And so how has it been? I guess maybe take us to like your expectations. So you joined April 2019, pre-COVID. We were already here in Fort Mill, so you started here in Fort Mill. Mm-hmm. I think you even moved down from Hickory.
Correct.
Yeah, and then now you live back in Hickory and do the remote thing a little bit.
Right. Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah, you prefer Hickory over Charlotte.
I do.
Yeah.
And my family's there, so with my kids, my family's there to support.
Yeah. So what were your expectations, and then what was reality?
So the expectations coming in, I think you and Manny were pretty clear, right? Supply chain here was really in its infancy stages, right? So I think I was brought in to kind of grow it out, as we kind of have continued to do here over the last almost 7 years. So as far as expectations, I kind of figured it was I was gonna come in and kind of have a little bit of carte blanche to kind of do what I needed to do to grow the department. Obviously, working with you and Manny and everyone else to keep everyone aligned on what we're doing. But I think it's worked out.
So supply chain, it can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different industries, and so in our industry, it's almost like that central unit because it touches like, and we always kind of said, well, where should supply chain fit in the org? Does it fit under customer service, or does it fit under operations, under finance, under merchandising? And so you reported directly to me for several years, and we just kind of kept it as Sweden and kind of head on a swivel, where it could have the inputs and liaison to finance, to operations, to merchandising, and kind of, so describe, between order management, delivery routing, liaisoning with operations, with customer care, or CX, I should say, customer experience, and sales, and then to the customer. Like, how would you describe supply chain in our organization, furniture retail, versus what you were doing previously, or maybe in supply chain in general?
Yeah, so previously I came from a furniture manufacturer, so we'd be working on the kind of the Ashley side of the business, right? So we're doing production schedules and from white wood to finished goods and all that. So it's very different.
Yeah, you're dealing with parts,
right?
And fabrics,
parts, yeah, absolutely, and you have a lot of control over what you're making, when you're making it, how many you're making it. Very different here, right? So we're, as a retailer, on the very tail end of the process there, right? So we're just buying from Ashley or Temper, whomever. So we can't control the manufacturing process. We can't control what they're making, when they're making, how many we're making. So there are a lot of hurdles there where we have to jump through hoops to try to make sure we have what we need when we need it, right? We can't just say, okay, start making that. We'd have to see what they've got, plan ahead. Which is why we do a lot of container ordering, right? Aside from the savings, it gets us what we need. We have it in stock. We can deliver faster to the customer.
But you're dealing with a finite cubic area of space, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
you don't have an infinite amount of capacity or of warehouse space or of dollars. So
right.
How do you kind of manage through that?
Yeah, so we dealt a lot with that during COVID, right? Because we just, at that point, it was like, just get whatever we can. Just get whatever you can, and we'll figure out what to do.
Yeah,
with it.
You had a satellite.
Yeah, to the point where we had to open a satellite location, right? It's a balance, which is really what supply chain all is, right? It's predictive in nature. You're forecasting, trying to understand what the customer is going to want, and we'll have it when we need it. So it's definitely a balance. Try to balance, have what we need, but not too much, or something that we won't need and now it goes discontinued, and now we're selling it for pennies on the dollars.
You want to optimize the space for
Absolutely.
to have the most product, most dollars that's going to turn. Yeah, what are our turns today?
Our turns say about 8, 9,
Yeah,
8, 9.
and that's blended, right? So
Right.
you can have some categories that are more turns than maybe some others.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and your team. So when you came on, was it a team of 2?
No, it was I think 5 people in OM.
Okay, order management.
Order management. Yep.
And so now today, I remember one point, maybe it was during COVID, you kind of said, Charlie, this is what our team size is. Now I was like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah. I mean, we've scaled back a little bit since COVID, just not needing as much manual power to get through everything. But yeah, today we're a team of 21, I guess 22 if you include me. And it really breaks down to 4 areas, right? So we still have order management. We have our supply chain solutions, which would be probably more traditional supply chain, PO management, vendor management, inventory management. And then we have our capacity optimization team. So they're the ones, if customers aren't scheduling a point of sale, when their order's ready, we're calling them. We're trying to pull orders up, get them delivered faster, things like that. And then we have our supply chain operations team, and that's formerly our home delivery team. So they work as the liaison between Broad River and our partners at Riverstone Logistics.
Okay,
Make sure successful deliveries.
That's 4 distinct teams within your department, and so home deliveries are managed through supply chain operations, one of your branches.
Correct.
Okay, fantastic. And so you have what, 4 leaders who oversee those 4 departments?
Yep.
Okay, talk about your team, your leadership.
Yeah. So, and I think I said this in the speech. I was made to go back and watch it. So, but you know, I'm not up there without my team, right? And that starts with leadership, the supply chain leadership team. So Sophia Inclisian is a rising star, I think, in this company. She's our senior manager of supply chain. So order management and our capacity optimization team fall under her. We have Danielle Lassiter, who leads our supply chain solutions team. And then Dwayne Rick leads our supply chain operations / home delivery team, who, by the way, are performing at all-time best. Our delivery success rate is better than it's ever been. Our feedbacks from our customers on our delivery teams are better than ever, both better than industry standards. So, and I got to credit Dwayne Rick on that. He's really taken ownership of that group and really driven the success there.
And how? What are some of the, because that's part of 2025 is not just high volume, but high success rates and hitting new records on all those metrics. But how did that happen?
Yeah, a lot of communication, a lot of collaboration, and accountability. Just holding everyone accountable to the same high standards.
With our delivery partners or with whom?
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. That's how we're successful.
And now we have put supply chain under operations, and you're working closely and directly with Tim Klaus. When did we make that move?
Yeah, so that was, I believe that was April of 24.
Okay. And what were your thoughts going into that? Were you like, or were you like, okay, I'll see how this goes? Or
Yeah, I mean, cautiously optimistic, maybe. I guess. You know, I knew Tim a little bit. Didn't know him great. Heard a few things, good things. But yeah, you know, change is scary, right? But we have to embrace it, and it's worked out really well. I think I've developed relationships that I probably wouldn't have otherwise developed.
And so talk about like the 2 years now. Why has that been a good fit for us?
Yeah, I think it's led to a lot more collaboration between supply chain and our DCs. A lot more communication. We're really in lockstep with what each other are doing now. It's not just like, oh, we better go check with them anymore. You know, we know what's going on now, and we helps make better decisions.
Yeah, it's a lot more synchronous.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what are some of the like systems or process changes? Yeah, I'm thinking of like Project Ship or some of the other like programs you've put in place to help us manage our supply chain over the last 7 years.
You're gonna probably hear this theme a lot, but a lot of accountability, right? So that's with our vendors too, right? Delivering on time, sending what they said they're going to send. So having those conversations with them. That goes both ways. When things are going great, we want to recognize it. When things are slipping, we want to address it as quickly as possible. So keeping eyes on, on-time delivery and things like that. And then we're always looking to improve the business, right? So, a couple of years ago, we found an opportunity where, with our deliveries to our customers, we want those trucks to be filled, right? We want to optimize our capacity. Well, what we're finding is a lot of customers were rescheduling orders after we were already routed. So at that point, you can't do, we can't just add a new sales order, once deliveries are routed, and we do that 2 days out. So now, day before delivery, we go through, say, okay, where do we have space? We look for customers in that area, call them, say, hey, we can get your delivery tomorrow if you'll be home. So I mean, that's generated another, $5 or $6 million a year just with that process alone.
Through route optimization.
Right. Yeah.
And is that through a partner like Package AI, or is that through just manual effort and knowing what to look for?
Yeah. So Package AI. So we started it actually before we went on Package, and it was very manual. Package has been a great collaborator with us as well. So they've been able to make some tweaks and make it easier for us and automate the process a little bit, so we're not creating so many man hours on that.
That's great. And so vendor scorecards, you have a vendor scorecard?
We do have vendor scorecards. We have one for AFI, one for Temper, and one for CLE and Purple.
And probably one for RLX, I assume, as well?
We do have one for RLX, yes. Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah, Riverson. Yeah, no,
absolutely.
The inbound freight and then the outbound shipments. So everything coming in and out, you guys are overseeing that.
Yes.
Lot of movements. By the way, how many pieces are we? Give us a sense of scale for what do we receive per day or per week, how you think about it, look at it, and how many pieces or trucks go out per day or per week?
Yeah, so we look at it carton cases, right? Because for when we're receiving, we want to make sure we have the labor required. So we set a capacity for each DC. Can't be more than this many cartons per day, otherwise it's going to be, we're going to stretch our labor too thin.
And that just to interrupt, that's that synchronous collaboration with ops.
Absolutely.
Because they have to do the labor management.
Correct.
And live within budgets and avoid overtime and things.
It all ties together, right?
Yeah.
And then same idea outbound, right? So there we have to have the right number of drivers for delivery teams. We have the right, again, same with our ops labor, right? We have the right number of people to pick and stage and prep and all that and assemble. So it's a constant balancing act, and then, we don't want to, so when you're in supply chain, you want everything to be steady, right?
Load level.
Right, yeah. So we're low leveling inbound, we're low leveling outbound. Written sales are going to go like this, right?
Yeah.
We want to keep delivered sales like this.
We would love written sales just go like this. But
yeah. Okay.
But yes,
yeah,
they do.
a steady,
That's right.
good point. But yeah, so for cost efficiency and labor, we want to keep that steady as possible.
But tell us some of the numbers that you think, like inbound, outbound, like that would like just kind of be the eye popping, like whoa.
Yeah, so I mean, generally inbound, you're looking $2 to $2.5 million a week.
Which is, do you know how many pieces?
At wholesale, so that would probably be total between the 4 DCs. Oh geez, I would say 7, 12, 14, 15, 1,600 pieces.
Okay, so we're receiving 16, and we receive Monday through Friday?
We receive, Monday through Friday.
So 5 days a week we're receiving
Yep.
from our vendors, 1,600 pieces a day.
Yep.
So 7,500 to 8,000 pieces a week.
Correct.
That's a lot of pieces.
That's a lot of pieces. And then we turn them around and ship them right back out.
So that's a lot of volume. I just want to, and when you joined, we talked about, hey, it was great that you joined, 11, 12 months before COVID hit, to really kind of get that tribal knowledge, get in our system. But also when you joined, we had one distribution center.
Yes, yep, right here.
Yeah, in Fort Mill. And then we knew we were going to build another one in Four Oaks, which is very comparable to this one. And then we didn't know we were going to have a third one in Spartan Ridge. And of course we didn't know we were going to have a fourth one now in Spokane, and about to have a fifth one in Maine. So how is that going with the proliferation of distribution centers and scaling kind of your systems and processes?
Yeah, I think each time we get better. We learn from the past. Opening Four Oaks was hard, and it was a long process.
Was it hard because we were trying to hire 36 people right when COVID hit?
Yes, that was part of it. Opening and getting stock when COVID hit. But I mean, even the preparation, right? So we spent probably a year prepping for that, and now we're turning these DCs in a couple months, right? So I think, we learn as we go, just like we do with anything else, and we get better each time.
That's awesome. All right, so a lot of success along the way. When did you guys? It seemed like the third quarter of last year, because we were trailing behind in last year, and so last year was I know you're very goal driven, and many of us are, right? And we put this goal of 272 in 2025, and we had profit sharing, and we had there was going to be an unlock for retail at that number, but also it's going to be the first year of our 6-year plan to go to 500 million by 2030. And I know you guys didn't want to miss, but something happened, something kind of clicked in July of last year, where really deliveries started outpacing written to the tune of like $3 million in the third quarter. What kind of flip got switched going into the back half of last year?
I mean, I wish I could tell you we just flipped a switch and it happened. Really, I think it's a culmination of a lot of hard work, right? You hear like there's no such thing as an overnight success, right? You just start hearing about them overnight. I think it's the same idea, right? We built these processes. So if you go back, we talked about supply chain joined the operations team April 2024. It's also when supply chain took on home delivery, right? So last year was really the first year where we worked the entire year as a team. And so you could really see the cohesion coming together as the year went by. Because when it started, I was almost like the point person. People would come to me, I'd be like, okay, go to that person. Okay, go to that. Well, they start learning to go to each other. And now all of a sudden they're just coming to me like, oh, we had this problem. Here's the solution we came up. Great. So you just saw the team really working together and working in unison much smoother.
So just those foundational building blocks. I don't know. I feel like a flip got switched in the third quarter because it really started to kind of escalate and accelerate. I know there's probably some key decision filters that you guys did to say, hey, we got to make sure that we get to this 272 number and we got to 274.3, I think it was for the year. Yeah. Going back to executive of the year, where you talked a little bit about the surprise of that. What does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, so like I said before, I'm not up there without my team. So for me personally, I think that's just validation of the team that we built here, the supply chain team. Because like I said, we're not successful without them. I'm not successful without them, and I'm not standing on that stage without them. So I think it's just, I don't know, maybe I hire well or work, collaborating with the people department to hire well. It was truly a team effort to get to 272, and it was the focus of the entire year.
Well, it's a championship team, right? And so the leader gets the accolades when things don't go well, but also when things do go well. And so things have gone well. You got a great team. Do you think of it as a premier team in home furnishings? Do they kind of think of it like that as well?
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember a few years ago, each department came up with their own mission statement, and ours was to be the premier retail support team at Broad River, and I'm going to say we are.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you've got these. I want to go back to these vendor scorecards, and I don't know if other folks are serving feedback to corporate or to TSI or other vendor Purple, et cetera, or if they're even listening. But how responsive do you feel? Let's just use AFI Ashley. When you serve them feedback, hey, we're getting less stock coming out of Redlands on case goods than Advance, for or on time. How responsive do you feel like they are to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of our vendor partners are incredibly responsive. That's Ashley, Temper, Sealy, Purple. We've got our contacts that we've built relationships with, and they're always very responsive. You talk about Redlands stock, right? That's a recent issue we've cropped up to them, and they're looking into it. Within a day or two, they're like, okay, we got it. We're looking into it, and we're currently waiting to hear feedback, but it's been 3-4 days, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't leave us hanging out there for months at a time, and where we have to continually follow up. They've been amazing partners.
What are some of the KPIs you're most proud of from like 2025? Like, what are the ones that percolate up to the top that you say that wasn't easy? We really focused on it, and I can look back at that with a lot of pride. Now we'll go try to do better the next year, but what do you look at and say, man, those are winning numbers?
When I look at 2025, it's our delivery metrics, and I say that because a lot of our other metrics, I think we made a lot of great strides, earlier in my tenure here, right? 2019, 2021, 22, broken promises came down from double digits to 3%, and we've been running there for several years, right? But we look at 2025, and then back into 2024, we knew our opportunity was in delivery. So we measured delivery success rate. So, what percentage of orders stick in the home without need for repair or an exchange or anything like that, right? 100% perfect delivery. Industry average is 87, 88%. We were running high 80s, low 90s a couple years ago. And last year, by the end of the year, we had just almost touched 94%. And every month so far, it's 2 months. First 2 months of 26, feels a lot longer than that, doesn't it? 26 so far. But first 2 months of 26, we've exceeded 94%. And again, when you compare that to the industry average, I think it's, we made some huge strides, and really proud of the team and the way they've accomplished that.
What are you focused on this year?
So a lot of the same. We want to continue to get better. We have opportunity with things like speed to customer. I think We wanted to continue to shape that, especially up in the Northwest where we're just opening now. So a lot of focus there. And honestly, that's a lot of where our focus is right now is in the Northwest, and then when we open in the Northeast, it'll go there too.
Yeah, that was one of my bigger concerns in Northwest, because you have to kind of start small. We don't have all the stock to lean it on, with safety stock and quick replenishment. And so and it's coming from a further way away, and how we manage through that without like having cancellations. And so I'm sure you're collaborating a lot with Melanie, with the Steelheads, and Melanie Pratt being the senior GM, and then the ops team, the Steelheads. And so specifically, how are you're trying to just optimize for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a challenge for us, right? Because we have economies of scale here, right?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, 33, 4 stores, 33, 4 stores now here in the Southeast. So we had to change our mindset, right? Now we're more like a mom and pop operation in the Northwest. One store, limited DC space, not holding stock, purchasing to order. So it really shifted our mindset, the way we look at things, the way we operate, the way we order. And again, the review of it, right? We have a lot of time spent with eyes on it, more so there than we would at the 33 stores here, just because of the constraints we have here, right? So like if a customer cancels an order, now we have stock we don't need. We don't necessarily have space for that stock. What are we going to do with it? So we're working with retail, trying to figure out how we can get, either get it to the store to sell off, or maybe push for an order so we can get it out of the DC somehow. So.
In a lot of ways, it's a lot more challenging to be a smaller.
It absolutely is.
Mom, we have to kind of think differently, think smaller, because you have so many more constraints and limitations. But we want to live within our harvest and grow into it. So that's the charge and the challenge, right?
Yeah, and I think when you're the size we are here, you can hide some sins. Right, you can't hide sins when you're one store.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, salvage how do you keep salvage and coordinate with like Project Dredge and merchandising and sales to kind of make sure that we're not holding a lot of aged goods or despised goods or salvage goods? How do you kind of or the waiting on parts goods?
So again, in the Northwest, we had to develop a different model than we have here in the Southeast, with a lot more eyes on it, a lot more hand holding of the inventory, right? So. Working in collaboration with the Vibe Collective, with retail, because like I said, if we have a customer cancel an order for some reason, and now we have the stock, it's okay. Is this going to sit here for the next 6 months, or are we going to get another order for it next week? Because if we're going to get another order for it, we'll hold it onto the DC. If it's a slow mover, we need to find an alternate solution. We can't just keep piling up slow moving product into the DC there.
It's kind of like active parenting, right? You're going to actively parent a 2-year-old a lot differently than like a 21-year-old.
Yeah, well, every child's different, right?
That's
so
right.
You have to adjust your method a little bit. So we got the child here in the Southeast, maybe the older child that, you can loosen the strains a little bit. And then we've got the child up there in the Northwest, and a little tighter controls over there.
No doubt about it. All right, I've got some canned questions here. Let's make sure I get through all of these.
Okay.
What are you most proud of when you think about how your team showed up in 2025?
The way they just kind of started gelling and working together, and really excluding me from a lot of things, which I greatly appreciated. But they just took the ball and ran with it, and they knew what they had a vision, they knew where to go, and they figured out how to get there between themselves.
I know you love numbers and stats and spreadsheets galore, but I feel like you've also gotten an acclamation or appreciation for the people part of the business, and a love for your people that always shines through. Talk about some of the things you're doing to kind of like really invest in culture in supply chain.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, we started Supply Chain Appreciation Week. I think with COVID, when COVID started, I don't know who started it, but Supply Chain Appreciation Day became a thing, like Ice Cream Day or whatever. And in true Broad River fashion, we felt like one day is not enough, so we made a week out of it. So we did different activities with them, and they can win prizes each day that week, and then we end it at a cookout.
Yeah.
Usually like Freedom Park in Charlotte here, and we just get everyone together, bring the families, bring the kids, and
I've been to
have
one
fun,
of
have
those.
a cookout. You have been. I think my kids shot you with a water gun that day.
They may have.
And then and then we just try to find things throughout the year. Every month we have what we call a supply chain kickback. We kind of do a business review, and then something where we try to identify a growth opportunity. And we talk to our memory makers like, hey, what do you want to work on, professionally, personally, and then we try to bring in speakers. So we've had guest speakers, other executives within the company come in, speak to us.
I think I may have done that once.
I think you did it. Manny's done it. Stacy's done it. Kim's done it. A lot of people. A lot of people have done it.
Do you have a quarterly like newsletter too?
We have a weekly newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
weekly newsletter. And then we're always celebrating birthdays and work anniversaries and things like that.
And you did a yearbook.
We did a yearbook last year for the first time.
I got that published.
Yep.
And I think Danielle and Sophia brought it to me at the gala.
Yeah, so they worked together and put that together with the rest of the team, and then they created superlatives, like in the yearbook. I got most likely to find your mistake.
Their mistake or
anyone's mistake.
Okay.
But so yeah, they put all that together. So we try to keep things, the company's only as successful as the people, right? So we try to keep things. Keep people here and keep them retention and make things fun for them.
Well, and so to piggyback on that, when you started, we weren't a remote workforce.
Correct.
Then since COVID, I mean, we've got some supply chain folks who I don't see, but maybe once a year. I mean, they work remotely. How do you stay in touch with them? I know you've got kind of your messaging services teams, and whatnot,
Yep.
but how is it managing a remote workforce?
Surprisingly easy. I mean, I don't know. We haven't. And again, I think it goes back to the people we have. But I think everyone knows what they need to do. They do it. We never really have problems with they're at home and they're not working.
You're managing outcomes, not
Right.
just like, hey, are you at work or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. And so just a couple more on 2025, and then I'll let you off the hot seat. Looking back at last year, what were the biggest challenges in supply chain, and how did your team turn those into opportunities?
Yeah, so I think with supply chain, the biggest challenge is always ambiguity. Because like I said, it's predictive in nature. You're trying to forecast what you need, and if there's a lot of ambiguity, you just don't know. So like the tariffs last year were a great example, right? So not knowing when they're going to take place, how they're going to take place, if they're going to be withdrawn, if they come to agreements with certain countries, and so we turned that opportunity, and what we started doing was just buying up what we could, best sellers, right? Let's buy them up before the tariffs hit, get them cheaper, improve our secret sauce. So
Being strategery.
Strategery, that's right.
Being strategic. Okay, and then in your career, which is kind of had a manufacturing and then a retailing component of supply chain, was there a pivotal moment that changed how you lead today?
I don't know. I'd say there was a pivotal moment, right? I very much believe in continuous growth, right? So always trying to get better as a leader. I will say, my first interview with you and Manny.
In 2015.
In 2015.
Okay.
And hearing the way you guys approached people, and the way you lead. So if you go back to early in my career, I felt like, well, I can't be a leader. I'm not assertive enough, or I will test off the charts for empathy, right? So like people could take advantage of that if they really wanted to. So I always felt like, well, I'm not really set up to be a leader. I'm not assertive. I didn't love confrontation. So like there was a lot of growth on my end, which doesn't happen overnight, right? But when I came here, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I can be a leader in an organization like this, where you care about your people and you put your people first, and it's not just profit. It's not floggings will continue until morale improves, right? So it's just I guess it's I don't know if it's new anymore, but a newer age of leadership, where it's more about the people. Like you think about like the triple bottom line, right? People, planet, profit. And I think we believe in that here, and so I feel, well, that's somewhere I would fit as a leader.
Okay, fantastic. And so if someone asked you for advice to someone who wants to grow into a senior supply chain role, what would you tell them?
I would say, one, be your authentic self. There's no one way to lead, which I think was probably my mistake earlier in my career. And two, listen and be willing to learn. Don't think you know everything about who you are, because who you think you are may not be the perception other people have of you. Listen to those perceptions. Do I like it? Don't I like it? If I don't like it, what do I need to change to be a better leader?
Yeah, that's great advice. Make sure you don't have those blind spots, and find the right mentors, and maybe also find the right company that you can thrive in. Right, industry too doesn't hurt as well.
That's right.
What do you think is people get wrong about supply chain, or said another way, what do you wish more people understood about supply chains?
Honestly, after COVID, I wish people understood less about supply chain again. Before COVID, it was like supply chain. What's supply chain? And then COVID, it was like, oh, supply chain. It's all your fault. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, like I said before, it's predictive in nature, right? So we are trying to forecast as best we can, but we also have to be agile enough to pivot. You know, recognize when we were wrong and be agile enough to pivot as quickly as we can to get where we need to be.
Yeah, it can be fragile, and we want it to be anti-fragile as much as possible,
Right.
and just dependable.
But there are so many outside influences, right?
That's
So
right.
you just got to be ready for any scenario.
But the good thing is you're looking at so many different lead measures and metrics that you're trying to make it such that you can eliminate failure points and risk points along the way. Won't be perfect, but trying to get there as much as possible. So kudos to you and the team to helping us not just have a fantastic 2025, but where we knew we were going in 2026 with our, going from regional to national and, durable scalability. You guys have personified that. You've done a great job, and that happens with great leadership. And so congratulations on the Executive of the Year achievement, accomplishment, and well-deserved recognition to you and to your team. We're grateful for you guys, and we could not have achieved what we did, such as having a $1.6 million, Pioneer profit sharing payout last year. A lot of that doesn't happen without supply chain hitting on all cylinders and all of your 4 departments and divisions. So thanks to the entire supply chain team. Thank you, Brian. Any final words or anything I didn't ask you or something that you wanted to say before I let you off the hot seat here?
No, I don't think so. Just want to thank you for having me. It was a real honor doing the award. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it, but really appreciate it.
Well, we're so glad to have you on the team. Only took 4 years of recruitment, but don't take that first no as rejection. Just stay with it. Hey, listen, thanks so much for joining us here on Stories from the River. We try to bring you fresh new content every Tuesday. See our new broadcast studio here. Tyler and Julie are taking it up to the next level. They're doing a great job for us, and our production team is doing a great job. Hey, you can catch us on YouTube. We got some videos there. Spotify, we got videos on that one too, and Apple. I am told that they will have videos at some point this year as well. So thanks so much for joining us. Mash that like button or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. To watch this episode, go to youtube.com/@storiesfromtheriver. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.